Hi, in this video, I'd like to talk about how fast an exponential function really grows, especially in the context of the coronavirus pandemic. Most of us, when we use the term grows exponentially, we mean that it grows really fast. But I suspect that most people don't understand how fast it actually does grow. On graph paper, an exponential function looks like this. It grows really fast on this side, okay? But in the context of something like the coronavirus pandemic that we're seeing, what happens is that most of us don't see how fast it grows when we were back here, and we were caught by surprise when it goes too fast over here. All right, so a friend of mine just sent me this screenshot of a breaking news alert on CNN. It says at least 2,000 people have died in the US from coronavirus. That number reached 1,000 just over 2 days ago. And that's we're in a tragic situation. Matter of fact, the first Vietnamese American, I'm Vietnamese American, so I pay attention to this kind of news. And the first Vietnamese American person to die of COVID-19 in the US was the sister of a friend of mine. So it's really tragic that by now we got at least 2,000 people that have died. But I'd like to talk about the math of this. CNN was comparing at least 2,000 today and 1,000 just 2 days ago. And when I hear that as a teacher, as a math teacher, it tells me that either the CNN doesn't understand exponential growth, or they understand exponential growth and they throw this to catch or to scare or to surprise people who don't know exponential growth. As bad as the situation is, unfortunately, it is 100% expected of an exponential growth. It's just the way exponential works. And here's the rule. The rule is it takes a lot longer to get the first 1,000 people and a lot quicker to get the next 1,000 people. Or in general, whatever number n you're talking about or you're thinking about, like n equals 100 or 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000, the first n people take a lot longer to get to than the next n people. The next n people come around very, very fast. So let me take some examples of coronavirus pandemic situations in a couple places, actually 2 places, Italy and the US, to illustrate this fact. Okay, all the data that I'm using in this presentation are from the website ourworldindata.org, and they compile their numbers from the various national agencies. So for the US, they compile it from the CDC, etc. All right, so let's take Italy. Italy got their first case on January 31st, and it took them a long time to go over 100 cases. It took them until February 24th. So we're talking about almost the entire month of February for them to go over 100. And just a day later, they go over 200. So it takes a lot longer to get the first 100. And for the next 100, very short time. Let's stay on the same graph and pick a different number. Let's take the number 300. From the first infections that they got on January 31st, and that's when they detected 3 people. In order to get to 300, it took them all the way until February 26th. February 26th is when they went over 300. And how long did it take them to go for the next 300? For the next 300, that is at 600, just 2 days later. All right, now let's continue our analysis. A lot of people, when we look at graphs like this, we sort of ignore the first handful of people because for the first 3 people that they found early, they test them and got them positive, isolate them, bring them to the hospital, quarantine them, whatever. So for the longest time, Italy only had 3 people. For the longest time, it's just 3. It's flat 3. It doesn't even grow. So a lot of time when studying pandemics and epidemics, what a lot of people say is, let's start analyzing after there have been a lot of infections, okay? After these things have gotten out. So let's start when Italy starts having more than 100 people. So here's the graph that Italy got over 100 people for the first time on the 24th of February. This is when they got 132 people. How long did it take them to go to take the first 1,000 people after this point? The first 1,000 people after this point would be like 1,100. So that makes it March 1st. That's when they got 1,118 cases. And so it took them this long, 6 days to have the first 1,000 people after 100. Well, how long did it take them to get one more 1,000 people after that? That will be the 2,000. So it'll be around here somewhere between March 3rd and March 4th. Okay, so we're talking about a little bit more than 2 days later. So we're talking about the difference between 6 days to get the first 1,000 after the 100, and just 2 days and a half to get the next 1,000. And what about the 1,000 after that? A lot less, a little bit less than 2 days. How about the 1,000 after that? A little bit more than 1 day. Okay. So yeah, it gets faster. First 6 days, and then 2.5 days, and then almost 2 days, and then just a little bit over 1 day. Every n that you have, the next n will be faster than the n before that. Now let's take a look at the United States. We got our first case on January 21st. That was when we had just 1 infection. How long did it take us to go over 100 cases? Right here on March 3rd. We got 103 cases. And how long did it take us to get to the next 100? Less than 3 days later, we got our next 100. And how about the 100 after that? Just about a day later, we jumped by another 100. Okay. The first 100 took an extremely long time. The next 100, a few days. The next 100, just a day. Now let's do the same thing with the US as we did with Italy. And let's say that we ignored at the beginning where we only had like a handful of infections, and let's start at 100. So right here, March 3rd is when we first went over 100 cases. This is when we got 103. And how long did it take us to go to the next 1,000 cases after that? The next 1,000 would be 1,103. And it took a while. It took 8 days. 8 days from March 3rd to March 11th for us to go over 1,000 after the first 100. How long did it take us to go to get the 1,000, the next 1,000 after that? Pretty much March 14th. So just 3 days later. 3 days later, we got the next 1,000. And how about the next 1,000 after that? Yeah, just about 1 day later. Now let's extend the graph out. And let's see something scarier. I start on March 3rd when we had 103. How long did it take us to get the next 10,000 cases? 10,000 cases. All the way here, March 19th. So we're talking about 16 days. How about the next 10,000? Just 2 days later. So that's what's scary about exponential growth that a lot of people don't understand. Okay, most people who don't work with math on the daily basis tend to think in terms of proportional growth. Okay, so for example, if it takes 2 months to get to 100 cases, then most people would think, okay, fine, then another 2 months for the next 100 cases, right? 4 months for 200 cases. No, that's wrong. Okay, it doesn't grow steadily like that. Let's take a look back at the number of infections in the US. This one is extended until March 28th, which is today's date. For the longest time, we had a really low number of infections. So let's say that we think we can handle 10,000 cases. For the longest time, it's nowhere near 10,000. Doesn't mean nobody knows it's going to jump up. Okay? There are people who know math, and they're warning us that the number is going to increase by a lot soon. But a lot of us are like, wait, we have all this distance. We can handle 10,000. We only have a few hundred or, dozens. But after about a month, we're here. A month and a few weeks, we're here. And things are growing faster. It took until March 19th, which is almost 2 months from the beginning. This is January 21st at the beginning. It took all the way to March 19th for us to reach our first 10,000. But it only takes a couple days later to get to another 10,000, less than a day to another 10,000, less than a day. And if you look up here in a day, things were growing by about 15, 16,000 cases. In the past, just around this time, a lot of experts were telling us that we're going to get to about 10,000 cases in about a month. A lot of people may be thinking, wait, no. We've been at like a few dozen cases for like a whole month. How is it going to like get to 10,000? But that's the idea of exponential growth, okay? Things don't go at the same pace as before. You were slow before, you're going to be fast now. Should have listened to the experts back here. Or alternatively, just study math. Study algebra. You know all those memes that says, it's another day when I don't use algebra? Not true. You're living in algebra right now. So, well, that was my whole point all along. Study algebra. Thanks for watching. Bye.